In the fog before dawn, thousands of men stood silent on the plain of Kawanakajima. Somewhere beyond the mist, Takeda Shingen, the tiger of Kai, believed he had set a trap. But his enemy, Uesugi Kenshin, the dragon of Ichigo, was already moving. By sunrise, one of the most brilliant plans of the Sengoku period would collapse into chaos. And from that chaos would come a story Japan would never forget. A warlord on horseback, a commander with a war fan, and a duel that may be more legend than fact, but became immortal. This is not just a story of two armies, it is the story of two men who could not defeat each other. Takeda Shingen, master strategist, ruler of Kai, feared across central Japan. Uesugi Kenshin, warrior monk, lord of Ichigo, a commander who believed his wars were fought in the name of justice. For years, they fought over the same prize, northern Shinano, and at Kawanakajima, their rivalry reached its bloodiest moment. To understand Kawanakajima, you have to understand geography. This was not an empty field. It was a gateway. Rivers, roads, temples, castles, and mountain routes all converged around northern Shinano. For Shingen, controlling this region meant securing the northern edge of Takeda power. For Kenshin, losing it meant allowing the Takeda to push closer to Ichigo. Neither man could ignore it. Neither man could simply walk away. But Kawanakajima was more than a battlefield. It was a hinge between worlds. To the north lay Ichigo, Kenshin's power base, protected by mountains but dependent on routes leading south. To the south and west lay Shinano, the contested province that Shingen had spent years pulling into the Takeda sphere. And beyond that, the roads opened toward the heart of central Japan. Whoever controlled this region could influence temples, roads, local clans, and military movement across the mountains. That is why both commanders kept coming back. Kawanakajima was not valuable because it was easy to hold. It was valuable because neither side could afford to lose it. Shingen and Kenshin were opposites. Shingen was patient, calculating, and ruthless when necessary. He built power through alliances, pressure, logistics, and timing. Kenshin was more direct. He moved quickly, struck hard, and often framed his campaigns as acts of righteousness. To later generations, they became symbols, the tiger and the dragon. But behind the legend were two commanders trapped by the same problem. Both were strong enough to challenge the other. Neither was strong enough to end the rivalry completely. Before the famous Battle of 1561, there had already been years of conflict. The first clashes at Kawanakajima did not produce a decisive result. Armies moved, castles changed hands, local clans shifted allegiance. But neither Shingen nor Kenshin could deliver the final blow. Each encounter only made the next one more dangerous. By 1561, both men understood the stakes. This time, hesitation could mean disaster. In 1561, Kenshin marched once again into Shinano. His forces took position on Saijoyama, overlooking the region near Kaizu Castle. Shingen responded by moving his army into the area. The situation became a deadly standoff. Kenshin held the high ground. Shingen controlled the castle. Between them lay the plain of Hachimanbara, the heart of the battlefield. For days, neither side moved. Then Shingen's commanders prepared a plan later remembered as the Woodpecker Strategy. According to later tradition, the Takeda army would split in two. One force would climb towards Saijoyama at night and strike Kenshin's position from behind. Like a woodpecker tapping a tree to drive insects out, the attack would force the Uesugi army down from the mountain. There, on the plain below, Shingen's main force would be waiting. It was elegant, it was aggressive. And if it worked, Kenshin's army could be crushed between two Takeda forces. But the brilliance of the plan was also its weakness. To divide an army in hostile terrain was always dangerous. The night force had to move through darkness, mountain paths, and fog without losing cohesion. The main force had to wait on the plain, exposed, trusting that the enemy would descend exactly when expected. And the timing had to be perfect. If the detachment arrived too late, Shingen's main body could be isolated. If Kenshin sensed the danger early, the entire operation could reverse. In other words, the Woodpecker Strategy was not just a trap, It was a gamble, a commander's gamble that his enemy would react predictably. But Kenshin was not predictable. Before dawn, fog covered Kawanakajima. The Takeda expected Kenshin to be trapped on the mountain. But Kenshin had already begun to move. His army descended through the darkness and mist, leaving Saijoyama before the Takeda strike could catch them. When Shingen's main force reached Hachimanbara, the battlefield was not empty. The Uesugi army was already there. The trap had turned inside out. Shingen had planned to surprise Kenshin. Instead, Kenshin was about to crash into Shingen's main army. This is the moment that gives the battle its tension. Kenshin did not wait to be struck. He did not remain passively on the mountain. Instead, under cover of fog, he turned movement into surprise. From Saijoyama, his army came down toward Hachimanbara before the Takeda detachment could close the trap. For Shingen, this meant the battlefield had changed before the battle even began. The plan still existed, the army still existed, but the enemy was no longer where the plan needed him to be. As the fog lifted, the battle exploded. The Uesugi attacked with terrifying momentum. Takeda soldiers, expecting to complete an ambush, now found themselves under direct assault. The fighting became brutal and confused. Commanders fell, formations bent. The Takeda line struggled to hold. This was not the clean, controlled battle that strategists imagine on a map. It was mud, smoke, shouting, horses, broken formations, and men trying to recognize banners through fog. The Takeda main force had to absorb the shock until the detachment could return. That meant time itself became the enemy. Every minute mattered. Every gap in the line could become disaster. Among the dead was Takeda Nobushige, Shingen's younger brother, one of the most painful losses of the battle. Nobushige was not just another officer. He was a trusted commander, a member of the Takeda inner circle, and a symbol of the cost reaching Shingen's own family. Yamamoto Kansuke, the strategist later associated with the Woodpecker Plan, was also remembered as dying in the fighting. Whether every later story about him is exact or not, his name became tied to the tragedy of a brilliant plan meeting battlefield reality. Kawanakajima was remembered not only because of tactics. It was remembered because the cost reached the heart of the Takeda command. Shingen had been forced into the kind of battle he did not want. A battle of chaos. A battle of blood. A battle where even genius could not control everything. Then comes the most famous scene. According to legend, Uesugi Kenshin himself broke through to Shingen's command post. Sword raised, he struck at his rival. Shingen, caught off guard, defended himself with his iron war fan. One blow, then another, then another. A retainer finally drove Kenshin away, and the moment vanished back into the smoke of battle. Did it really happen exactly this way? Historians still debate it, but legends survive for a reason. This scene captured what Kawanakajima meant to later generations. Not just two armies fighting for territory, but two great men meeting at the edge of history. Meanwhile, the Takeda detachment that had climbed toward Saijoyama discovered that Kenshin's army was gone. They rushed back toward the battlefield. When they arrived, they struck the Uesugi from the rear. Now Kenshin was the one at risk of being trapped. But the battle had already consumed too much time, too much strength, and too many lives. The Uesugi withdrew. The Takeda held the field. But this was not a clean victory. Shingen had survived. Kenshin had escaped. Both armies had suffered terribly, and once again, neither man had destroyed the other. Kawanakajima did not decide Japan. It did not make Shingen shogun. It did not bring Kenshin control of Shinano. In political terms, the battle changed less than its fame suggests. But in memory, it became enormous. A fog-covered battlefield, a failed trap, a desperate defense, a commander's brother dead, a legendary duel at the heart of the chaos. So who won? The answer depends on what you measure. The Takeda held the field after the Uesugi withdrew. In that narrow sense, Shingen could claim the battlefield. But Kenshin's army was not destroyed. His power in Echigo survived, his reputation did not collapse, and Shingen paid heavily for a battle that failed to end the rivalry. That is why Kawanakajima resists a simple answer. It was a tactical survival, a strategic stalemate, a human tragedy, and over time, a legend. The kind of battle where the result matters less than the memory it leaves behind. Kawanakajima became the perfect Sengoku story: strategy, courage, rivalry, loss, and uncertainty, all in one morning. For Shingen, Kawanakajima proved both the reach and the limits of strategy. Even the best plan could be broken by an enemy who moved first. For Kenshin, it proved the power of audacity. A commander could turn a trap into an attack and still escape when the field turned against him. Neither man left the battle untouched. Neither man left with final victory. But both left larger than before. In the end, Shingen and Kenshin remained what they had always been. Two giants, locked in balance. The tiger could not devour the dragon could not break the tiger. And so Kawanakajima became something greater than a victory. It became a legend. Not because one man won, but because neither man could truly lose. This has been the Bushi Files. Until next time, stay curious.